I am having an affair with our maid. My wife has caught me, but there is something strange about the entire situation. My wife and I are both working people. I work in an IT job, and she is a budding lawyer. You can imagine that we run on a tight schedule, and that leaves little to no time for household chores. We live in a 2 BHK apartment in Bangalore, and we had fired our old maid 2 weeks ago as she kept on taking leaves without giving us any notice. So that made us venture into the job search for a new maid. After 1 month of asking around, my wife found Bindu. Our neighbor in apartment 103B had recommended her to my wife. And needless to say, the moment I had laid my eyes upon Bindu, I realized that my wife looked like a leprechaun standing next to her. Bindu's fair skin, her beautiful eyes and face, her slim build, all just took me in when I saw her. I wanted to feel some guilt about it, but honestly, can you blame a guy for getting attracted to a beauty like that? So I decided to have an affair with Bindu. My wife would not have noticed anyways since I work from home and she goes to the local court. Slowly, over a week, I built a rapport with Bindu, and by her blushing gestures, I guessed that she liked me too. I first initiated a kiss with Bindu during a Tuesday evening, 2 weeks after we had hired her. But unfortunately, that happened to be the last time. We were both sitting on a sofa, leaning in close, but suddenly, I heard the door to our house being opened and my wife walked into the living room and caught us in the act. I immediately broke apart and backed into a corner while listening to my wife screaming at Bindu for seducing her husband and plenty of other things that are not relevant to the story. But the strangest insult that my wife repeatedly hurled at Bindu was calling her an old hag. By Bindu's looks alone, that insult was weird. Later that evening, after a lot of apologizing, my wife forgave me. I found it weird, as she was not that forgiving generally, but I let it go, since I needed to preserve my marriage. But one thing remained stuck in my mind. Why did you call Bindu an old hag? She is rather young, is she not? I queried with my wife. What the hell are you talking about? Is your brain okay? She is old enough to be your grandmother. She has wrinkly skin and white hair, and it looks like her knees will give out any time these days. I had no reply to that. I felt like this incident had hit my wife so hard that she was simply delusional now. But anyways, I am going to stop the affair. It is not worth ruining my marriage over. And explaining the whole situation to my parents would be worse, as they think of me as their well-behaved and traditional son. We also decided to continue keeping Bindu around, as losing a maid in this economy was not worth it over one indiscretion. This first weird incident with my wife over Bindu's looks just seemed like a product of the shocking situation she was in, but my wife kept on making more and more bizarre claims as time passed. The second incident happened over a disagreement over our son. Just yesterday, Bindu was singing a beautiful lullaby to our 1-year-old. And she kept on singing for 4 hours, just sitting in one place while gently rocking the red cradle. I remember going for a nap at 1 p.m. and waking up at 4 p.m., and she was sitting at the exact same place singing the same words over and over. "Oh little baby, you are so cute, we will drown you in a well." The lyrics may seem alarming, but that was just because she was from a village nearby, and villages have odd lyrical lullabies. In my sleepy state after I had woken up, I hallucinated for 1 minute straight. Because I kept on looking at Bindu's feet and they were turned backward. I rubbed my eyes after that and they had turned to normal. Later, I confronted my wife about not taking care of our son. After all, Bindu was obviously taking better care of him than me. But she looked at me like I was crazy. "We have no son. And we really need to get you checked with a doctor." "What? We have a 1-year-old, how could you forget? And you should pay more attention to him. Bindu sang a lullaby to him for 4 hours straight today. She takes way better care of him than you do." "Ugh. I am taking a divorce from you. You seem to be hallucinating things that are not there. And another thing, Bindu took a leave today. She sent me a message on WhatsApp. So, whatever it was you keep on seeing, it is not Bindu. It is just your brain going schizophrenic. But we have a son together. How could you just forget about him? My brain happened to stick upon that question, because that seemed like the most important thing right then, among the abnormal incidents around our house and my wife's losing grip on reality. Because seriously, making lies around our maid was one thing, but lying about our son? That was a new low. Oh really? Then tell me the name of this son you keep on talking about. What does he look like? What is his birth date? Where is he right now? Because I don't see any 1-year-old babies around here. And where is his toy box? His cradle? My wife queried with a raised eyebrow. I opened my mouth to answer that question, and my mouth kept on stretching wide for a minute. I tried to remember these details, but my mind could not recall these things. My wife kept on looking at me with a mixture of anger and nervousness as she had been proven right. I finally managed to close my mouth and huffed as I went to sleep. She was going to sleep in the other bedroom, not wanting to be around me. The third weird incident happened when my wife tearfully told me that she was going to leave the house, as she saw Bindu crawling on all fours on the walls in my bedroom last night. I once again told my wife that she was crazy. It was true that I had secretly called Bindu to our home last night at 1 a.m. to take care of our crying son in the living room, as my wife had locked her bedroom door to sleep and apparently did not care for him at all, but he stopped making a racket after 15 minutes of Bindu singing her signature lullaby to him and rocking his red cradle. She really was a good caretaker of my child. I slept soundly after that. I told my wife as such, and she screamed at me, "We do not have a child. I think we have invited a chudale into our house. If you want to live, get out of the house already." She ran outside our home sobbing after that, taking her luggage with her. For those who do not know, a chudale is the Indian equivalent of a creepy witch, like the ones you see in the movie The Ring, except her trademark is that her feet are backward. I wondered if my wife would ever regain her grip on her sanity back, since Bindu is no chudale. I tried to remember what happened last night, so that I can collect some solid proof that my wife is crazy, and that I am sane. Because the events in my home are making me question my sanity. I checked my call log and WhatsApp messages, hoping to find some proof that I called her to take care of our son, but there was nothing. In fact, Bindu's contact details were nowhere on my phone. I am getting frustrated now. I had somehow fallen asleep immediately after checking Bindu's contact details, and now I have woken up. It is 1 at night right now and my son is crying in the living room in his red cradle. It looks like I need to call Bindu again. Appalachian Mountains. So, I want to start off by saying that I am a very skeptical guy. I became an atheist when I was 17, and when my belief in God dissipated, the belief in everything else supernatural went out the window as well. I also want to say that I've lived in Appalachia for all but 4 years of my life and I'm almost 22, and I have never experienced any of the creepy things people say about the Appalachian Mountains. Until the story I'm about to tell you. So toward the end of last year, 2023, me and 2 of my friends had sort of simultaneous quarter-life crises, which eventually led us to getting rid of almost all of our belongings, quitting our jobs, leaving our apartments, and living out of our cars and door-dashing around the country. Well, on our first night on our big trip, we went to stay with a friend of one of my travel mates. She lived in Tennessee in the Appalachian Mountains. The Smoky Mountains, specifically. Which, for those of you don't know, is like a subcategory of the Appalachians. She lived off a back road in the middle of the woods. The first night we were there, she had told us that there were strange occurrences on the property. The house was haunted, and there was something in the woods. She had told us that whatever is in the woods likes to hang out around her shed. She said that one night, she was walking up onto her porch, when she got the overwhelming feeling of being watched. Becoming fed up with whatever it was, she screamed something along the lines of "Go the fuck away into the woods," only for something to scream it right back at her. She claimed to have seen it one night from her kitchen window. She said it was peeking around the shed, staring at her. It wasn't an animal, but it wasn't human either. Out of curiosity, I asked her to describe whatever creature she saw in more detail, but she refused. I, being the skeptic that I am, basically disregarded everything she said and forgot about it. Now, because it was our first night on the trip, and it was so fun and new to us, we wanted to sleep in our cars, which were parked right in front of the shed I mentioned earlier. Yes, that shed. We hadn't yet made window covers, so we were sleeping in 3 SUVs with uncovered windows completely surrounding us. But, I had no issue with this. I thought the worst that could happen would be that I'd wake up with a bear staring at me. So, I went to bed peacefully and woke up in the middle of the night, really needing to pee. I got half-dressed, put on my shoes, left my car, walked to edge of the woods, did my business, and got back in my car and went to sleep. I had not a single care in the world. No uneasy feeling, no feeling of being watched, nothing. The next night, I once again wake up, really needing to pee. So, just like I did the night before, I sat up in bed, put on my pants, got my shoes ready, and reached for the door handle. But I couldn't do it. It was like every hair on my body stood on end, and I got this overwhelming feeling of dread and foreboding. Now, I had a makeshift bed in the back of my SUV, on top of all the back seats that I flipped down. So I'm sitting there in my bed, looking around through all of my uncovered windows. I can't see anything outside, except for some faint outlines of trees, and the glints off of my travel mates' cars. I neither saw nor heard anything that should be putting me on edge. I reached for the door handle again, but I once again got that terrible feeling. I continued to look around, try to reach for the door, and withdraw my hand. I finally gave up and said screw it and just peed in an empty water bottle. The next morning, I got up and was talking to my travel mates, and one of them mentioned waking up in the middle of the night out of nowhere, and experiencing an overwhelming feeling of being watched. She sat up in her makeshift bed, and looked all around, only to see nothing. I can't lie, when she said that, I got a bit of a knot in my stomach. I asked her what time it was when that happened, and she estimated that it was around the same time I woke up. Around 3 a.m. I then told both of them about my experience, and we were all a little freaked out about it. When we were headed out to our cars the following night, we noticed that all of the homeowners' 5 outdoor cats were all sitting on our front porch, which we hadn't seen the last 2 nights. Previously, they would all be scattered around the property, if they were even in sight. We thought it was weird, but we didn't think much of it. We all climbed into our cars and said our goodnights on our walkie-talkies. It was a pretty warm and muggy night for October, so we all had our battery-powered fans running. One of my friends frustratedly reported that her walkie was dying. Then, my other friend reported that their fan had died. Then my walkie started dying. And it continued until, in the span of 5 minutes, all of our electronic camping gear, walkies, flashlights, and fans, had all died. Finding this incredibly creepy, we all decided that we should just sleep in the house to be better safe than sorry. We were gathering up our things to move inside, when I began to hear what sounded like something large walking through the leaves in the woods. I kept stopping what I was doing and looking toward my friends, who were standing right by the woods. They seemed unbothered every time, so I would just continue what I was doing. That was when I heard a louder noise coming from the woods and finally decided to walk over to my friends. Turns out, one of them was standing watch while the other one gathered the rest of her things. Me and my friend stood there watching my other friend's back, and it kept sounding like whatever was in the woods kept getting closer to us. Soon enough, my friend had gathered all her things and we calmly, but quickly went into the house. From what I can remember, we slept in the house the following night as well, but the night after that, one of my friends borrowed some sage from the homeowner and saged all along the wood line and around our vehicles before we got ready for bed. We slept perfectly fine for that night and every night after. No more weird feelings, noises, nothing. Of course, we were pretty much perpetually on edge from then on, but it was never quite the same feeling of dread and foreboding that I had felt before. To be honest, I don't know what to make of all of it. I know I didn't see anything. But the feeling I got was unlike anything I had ever experienced. That was the first and only time in my life where I have gotten that feeling, especially just out of nowhere. I've told the story a few times now, and I've had people tell me that it was just a bear. But I don't think a bear would give me that sort of instinctual feeling of danger when I can't even hear or see it. And I'm fully aware that I may be biased now, but I've lended a bit more credibility to the homeowners' stories after my experience. For those of you that are curious, no, we are not still on the trip. Unfortunately, the whole thing went downhill after a couple of months, and we are now integrating back into society. We are, however, all still friends. And, no, we did not experience anything like this again, despite staying at several campgrounds in the middle of the woods in other parts of the Southeast. Please like and subscribe, it helps the channel a lot, and yes, thank you for listening to the story. I enjoyed reading it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, so okay anyway, until next time. See you later.